Hello, everyone. It's Brian in Toronto, and today I'm going to do a thread response for Sam St. John. His thread is called something like Five Late Career Masterpieces. So I'm not sure what I've chosen are actually masterpieces, but I think these are five records from the late career of these artists, and I think they're excellent. So masterpiece, maybe, maybe not. Um, I've seen a few of these, and I know the one artist I thought about immediately was Bob Dylan, but that's been mentioned before, so I'm going to skip that. So I don't know if there's overlap with other people. There probably is, but that's okay. So I think these are records that are excellent. Some of my favorites, maybe in some cases better than what came right before it, but in some cases better than what came later. But in all cases, I think you could say these are late career records. So I'm going to start with the 18th record from Lou Reed, which came out in the year 2000. And perhaps I should start by saying that if you're curious as to what's going on in this cover image, that one, and this one, just go read the Wikipedia entry for this record. It describes it in the second paragraph. I won't mention it here because this is a family show. So just go look at that. And, this is an excellent record. It's one of my favorite Lou Reed records. And if I were to rank Lou Reed records, I maybe would put it in the top three, maybe top four. And I know for some people, they sort of lost track of Lou Reed after the 70s, Transformer, Berlin, Coney Island Baby, those iconic records. And he had some issues in the 80s. There's some weaker stuff in the 80s, but he came back with a force, I think. Like the one that came out before this set, The Twilight Reeling, which I think was really good too. This is, I think, a bit better. And then after this, he recorded The Raven, which was kind of hit and miss, and Hudson Wind River Meditations, which was his Tai Chi record, and of course the record he did with Metallica. But this one, I think, is his best late career album without question. It's a double record. I had the CD when it came out. This is the Record Store Day issue. Two pieces of vinyl, black vinyl, and it just starts with, it's such a strong record. Paranoid Key of E, which is a brilliant opening track. He goes Mystic Child, a nice rocker. Mad and Ecstasy are great. Modern Dance. I'm not going to read all the titles, but Future Farmers of America is like a really excellent driving Lou Reed rock song. There are only two tracks here which I think might cause people some issues. One for me is Baton Rouge, a song I don't like. I've never liked that song. And the other is a very long track that goes on. I don't know how long. It takes up almost an entire side called Like a Possum. And it is very weird, repetitive, seems like almost stream of consciousness song with a lot of noise. And I kind of enjoy it, but I think some people found it unbearable. And when I did copy my CD to my iPod, I left that one out and I left Baton Rouge out. But the rest is brilliant. I think this is one of my favorite Lou Reed records. And if you haven't heard him since the 70s, maybe you could check that out. The second record I chose is the 25th record, I guess, from David Bowie, called The Next Day. This is from 2013. And it was his first record in somewhere around 10 years. So I didn't realize it at the time, but I guess when this came out, I was like, really? It's been that long since we've heard anything from David Bowie, which is, I think it was 10 years. But this, I think, is really, really good. It recycles the art from Heroes on front and back. It's two records. And my memory of this is when this came out, he made some comments like that he wasn't going to tour anymore, that he was just going to produce records or make records. I thought that was really great. We could just sit back and wait for new David Bowie records to roll in. This particular issue it comes with a CD and, as I say, two records, and that's kind of what it looks like. And I think this is, people will talk about, I guess if you were to say, a great Bowie later day masterpiece, people would say Black Star, which I can't really disagree with because I think that's a fantastic record. But for me, that record is, it's very sad because he died soon after, and listening to it is kind of overwhelming. So this one, though, for me, sounded very promising because we had new music and we had the promise of new music and that this is fantastic. Whereas Black Star for me is a bit depressing in some ways, but great. I mean, it's a great record, but this one I thought was really fantastic. the title track is great. The stars are out tonight, and the videos for these were really good too. We have "Where Are We Now," "Valentine's Day," "I'd Rather Be High." I mean, even "Heat." These are all great songs, and it is a tragedy that we only had this one and next, and then we were done. So sad on that account. The next item I have pulled out is going to stand in for 6 records because I chose American Recordings, and for me, the last 6 Johnny Cash records are just excellent. And I was not a Johnny Cash fan. My parents liked him, my relatives liked him, my grandparents liked him. I know some of the big tracks like A Boy Named Sue and Burning Ring of Fire, but for me, it didn't really work for me. I mean, they were okay. I didn't hate him. Like, I always gave an exception, like many people do, for Johnny Cash. Like, I don't like country music, but Johnny Cash is okay. And so that was always true. But then when I heard Hurt, which is not on this record, but when I heard Hurt the first time, I was like, wow, that is a really bold thing to do, is to cover Nine Inch Nails. And I think the track really worked, except I hate the distortion at the end. But then I went back and listened to this one, and eventually got all 6, and I think they're all great. Just really interesting music, and obviously he benefited from the collaboration with Rick Rubin. I think that really brought his career back to the forefront. Just on a minor note, first song on side 2 says "Bird on a Wire," which is incorrect. The song is "Bird on the Wire," but Leonard Cohen, that's a Leonard Cohen song. But because I mentioned Leonard Cohen, I'm going to have to choose for number 4, they're in the wrong order here, Leonard Cohen's 14th record from 2016 called "You Want It Darker." We had one further record from Leonard Cohen that would have been his posthumous record called "Thanks for the Dance," which is great. This one's better. I think this is his best later day record. I mean, I really like Old Ideas, but by the time we got here, I think this really, this was a really strong statement. Here's the back of it. I read that he said he was going to take up smoking in his later life because he really enjoyed it, but he had to quit because of health issues. Now, by the time he made this record, he was 82. He had multiple spine fractures. He had to sit in a special kind of medical chair. You could probably make the claim that he does more sing-talking in this record than previous ones. It's a little more spare. It's more acoustic. You Want It Darker, the lead-off track, is really excellent. It's one of my favorite Leonard Cohen tracks. And he still looks cool. But he was in bad health, and I think he clearly knew this would have been his last record. But there's some really good lyrical moments here, like "Leaving the Table," really excellent, sad song considering his circumstances. And I think this is great. I wasn't enthused with, some of his mid-career stuff, like, or late-career stuff, like "Popular Problems," but I think this is the one to get. If you don't know anything about Leonard Cohen after the even the early 90s or the late 80s, this would be the place to go. And so for number 5, I'm going to circle back to the Lou Reed kind of territory for his companion from the Velvet Underground, and this would be John Cale, and this is a record called "Hobo Sapiens" from 2003, and it's not on vinyl. It hasn't been released on vinyl. I wish it would be. This one came with that obnoxious anti-pirating software that downloaded to your computer when you copied this over. This is really interesting because he uses a lot of samples in this, and he has a lot of guest musicians. Well, he always has guest musicians, but he uses a lot of interesting people on here, a lot of samples. Pro Tools featured prominently in this record. And so one of the things is, like, he is so prolific. This would qualify as his 13th solo release after the Velvet Underground, but he has done a number of collaborations, like, for example, Songs for Drella with Lou Reed, the record he did with Brian Eno, etc., and then a number of live records and compilations, and then a large number of movie soundtracks and scores. So if you were add up all of those, this would be 35 or 40th release, I think. But although I love things like Paris 1919 and Music for a New Society, if you were to press me on what John Cale record should someone start with, I think I would choose this one. Now, this is already 20 years ago, but even then, that was late in his career. He's in his 80s now, and I think this is a brilliant record. I think you could make the case that this is his best record, but it's hard to say because his output is so diverse. It's hard to compare this with Music for a New Society. This is more pop rock, and Music for a New Society is more ethereal and dark, I guess. So, yeah, Homo Sapiens from John Cale. So that's 5 late career masterpieces, and go and check out Sam's channel if you don't know it. And thanks once again for watching.